Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's myself, Ryan118, and I'm going to be alone today on this one for a little bit of a live match preview. I told you I'm kind of feeling like going back to these old formats of live match previews. I feel like it's a little bit better. It opens up the conversation. It stops it from being the same kind of stale previews, because how much really changes from game to game? You know, Celtic go with the same approach. We go to win the game. We go to dominate the game. Ultimately, we expect to win the games. So there's not too much that I can ultimately change up in saying. So why not get the viewers involved? Why not get some Q&As going on, get some questions in, get some chat, get some discussion, and just make it a little bit more interesting. So just like the one that we done, I think it was for Dundee United, we're going to be doing it again tonight. No McGinley, just me. It's going to be a lot shorter than that last one. That last one I think went on for about an hour and a bit. I think it was an hour and 2 minutes that one went on for. It was basically a live podcast tonight. I've got work at 6 o'clock, so we're going to be here for about 20 minutes, and we'll try and get things wrapped up nice and quickly, rather than talking about Malky Mackay's Ross County for too long. But thank you to everybody who's tuned in so far. Thank you to everybody that's currently in the comments section getting their stuff in. Josh, Lee, AD, Gav, Sam, Callum, everybody I can see in there right now. Thanks very much, and let's go on with this. And if you haven't already, if you're watching this back when it's not live, then hello, and make sure to hit the big red subscribe button below. We're nearly at 31.1k already, so let's try and hit that. Celtic go to Dingwall tomorrow night to take on Ross County. A horrible December fixture. It's one of those ones that you can't really be arsed with in all reality, because you just want to get into that cup final at the weekend. You want to get closer and closer to the kind of end of this packed fixture list. And travelling to Dingwall is no easy feat. You know, it's a terrible journey as it is, never mind a difficult game to play. And we're going up against a Ross County side who right now are in a little bit of form. They've kind of turned a corner over the past 4 or 5 games. And they'll be looking to upset Celtic in what is a massive game in this title race with Rangers this season. Now, it's that big a title race, may I add, that Sky Sports have decided, do you know what? We're not going to televise any of the games. As far as I'm aware, none of the 2 games is on the television tomorrow night, which is a bummer. So we're going to have to source our streams through other means, whether that's paying Ross County or finding it on Hesgo. It's not televised. Don't know why. Makes no sense whatsoever. This is a huge, huge title race, and you'd think that Sky Sports would be looking at this month in December and thinking how big it is and how much people are going to be paying attention, and actually putting some of the games on the TV. Nah, of course it's worthless Scottish football to the big broadcasters, so you know they don't really care, and we'll have to find our own way. We can only do what we must. Yeah, so Celtic going into this game, no injured players will be returning, which is a bit frustrating. We will not have a Kyogo back, we'll not have a James Forrest back, we won't see any of the guys who are still out back. It is a little bit of a bummer. Mikey Johnson as well, who's injured. That has been an issue, of course, for the last few weeks at Celtic. It's one that we can't do much about as fans, and I suppose Ange Postecoglou can't do much about. You see what happens when you go live, you know. And it's frustrating. We knew this was going to be a difficult December for this, and you don't want to exactly head up to Dingwall with a lighter team and with less options, but it's just the reality of what's happening. And it kind of, and we'll come to this when we talk about the team selection, it means that the front three discussion becomes a very weird one. Now, the graphic that I'm going to put on screen for the probable front three tomorrow night ain't pretty. Not when you're wanting to try and win every single game and you've got a big one up in Dingwall. It's not ideal. It ain't pretty. So when I throw that up on screen, we'll look at the realistic option. But Lewis Laird in the chat, there you go. This is why I love having these live ones. Owen Moffat travelling with the squad. He will be an option for Ange Postecoglou hopefully tomorrow night, and it's a big chance for players like him to step up in these occasions when we don't have a Kyogo Furuhashi, when we don't have a Jota, when we don't have a James Forrest. When these guys are out, you know, we need players like Owen Moffat to step up and have the game of their life, because these games could be the make or break ones come the end of the season, and it's not ideal, but Postecoglou will have to deal as necessary. But as I say in the title of the video, there was an update provided on Kyogo Furuhashi today at the press conference in relation to his injury and when he'll be back to be available for Celtic. Now, it isn't ideal having Kyogo out tonight, but I think the main game on everybody's mind is next week, the League Cup final. Everybody wants to have Kyogo Furuhashi available for that. Him going off wasn't ideal in that game against Real Betis. A lot of people shared their frustration at him even coming on the park that night. We've kind of paid the price of that, you could say. But the cup final is the game on everybody's mind. This is the update that Ange Postecoglou has provided in regards to the League Cup final and Kyogo Furahashi's situation. Who knows, if he's ready to go, we'll play him. If not, we'll look to the following game. It's not much of an update, but it does keep his cards close to his chest, and we've seen that throughout the entirety of the season. Thus far, we've seen that he likes to kind of surprise us with these returns from injury. We've seen most recently Greg Taylor thrown in from nowhere. We've had McGregor thrown in. I think Furahashi's first injury was thrown back into the team as well. You know, he has kind of been quiet with it a lot of the times, and he has just surprised us. Will he surprise us next week? I don't know. And I think that you can always see it in the press conferences that Ange doesn't like providing these updates. I think he gets quite irritated at the amount of questions that come up about them. And he has played a kind of quiet one there. Will he be available? I know as much as you know. That quote is all we can work off just now, but I'm glad that he's not ruled it out. I think the good news is he hasn't ruled it out. He hasn't said, no, he won't be available for the League Cup final. Move on from it. He's gave a kind of open-ended answer, and there could be possibility for Furuhashi to come back into the team next week, but we'll just have to wait and see. But he isn't here tomorrow night, we know that. And how do we approach this? Let's talk about the opposition. We'll have a Q&A session. I'll let you get your questions in relation to everything this stream is covering. Here's Ross County's form heading in to the game tomorrow night. A team that are right now kind of, as I said, turning a corner under Malky Mackay. They've had a very poor season overall. But in regards to their expectations, you know, there's not much else they can do. They are a side who are always going to be down, fighting towards the bottom. But they've now not lost in their last 4 games. That is their best run of the season thus far. They've racked up an impressive win against Hibernian in that space of 4 games. The most recent win coming against Dundee at the weekend in a 3-2 win. And the only loss in that last 5 was against Rangers, who of course are top of the table. It's not a loss to be ashamed of by any means. So yeah, they are turning a little bit of a corner, but they'll have to work hard to beat us, won't they, lads? And this is the, you know, I never want to come across with that entitlement that we should be winning these games. But, you know, this is where the main sort of narrative always comes in with these games. We are a much better side, and if you line that form up against our form, it doesn't even touch our form. You know, we have won 5 of our last 6 in the Scottish Premiership. We've won 5 of our last 6 in all competitions as well. You know, we're very much on good form just now. And we have been able to adapt, and this is why I don't worry so much for tomorrow night. We've been able to adapt thus far without these players who are injured. We've been, you know, not as good. I wouldn't say, you know, in the final third we have lacked that intensity that Kyogo brings and that Jota brings. But we have managed to step up in the face of that and get ourselves goals, and we have managed to cope without it. And we played David Turnbull up front at the weekend, for Christ's sake, and we still managed to get a goal in that first half. We still managed to win the game and see the game out. Defensively, we've been outstanding. Carl Starfelt has only conceded, I think, 1 Premiership goal in every game he started, I think, for Celtic. You know, right now around the park, we are looking like a solid side, and even with these injuries, they're managing to stand up and show that. So I don't doubt our ability to go to Dingwall tomorrow night. And that's not to say that Ross County won't give us a good game tomorrow. Of course they will. And Malky Mackay will be really wanting to get one over Celtic. But, you know, it's one that I really do think we have a little too much for them. And we should be able to see the Staggies out. But, you know, it does raise that conversation before we go into the sort of Q&A session and before I start taking questions from you in the chat. We need to talk about the team that we expect to see Celtic field tomorrow night. And let's get up my team prediction for tomorrow night's game. If I can get my graphics working for me, bang. This is a team that I think this is the team that I would predict anyway to play tomorrow night. And it's a side that, you know, isn't ideal, but as I said, in that front three, it doesn't look like the most pretty of the front three, but it's one that is definitely capable of heading to Dingwall and win the game. Joe Hart, of course, to keep his space in goals. A back 4 of Juranovic, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Starfelt and Taylor. Let me know, by the way, what you think about the teams as well in the chat, and let me know if you think there'll be any changes or if you agree with my team. But that's the back 4 I think he'll play. Now, there is that conversation that he could bring in Tony Ralston, who returned at the weekend. Of course, he came on for Mikey Johnston when Johnson had to go off the park, and he did make a sort of short return. It could give him his first start since being injured. I don't think he will quite yet. I don't know when he'll decide to give him that. Could be the League Cup final, it could be afterwards, but I do think he'll stick with Juranovic and Taylor purely for the fact that Taylor is just getting back into the team now, and he'll probably want to be able to give him some minutes and get him back up to speed with the rest of the team, because the team has progressed so much while Taylor has been on the sidelines. So I think that you'll want to get Taylor back up to that sort of level with the rest of the team. The midfield three, there is definitely a few combinations I think that Postecoglou could explore. It does have the likes of James McCarthy, Ismaila Soro, even Shaw, for example, who made his first start for Celtic in the Europa League last week. But I think that's the three we'll go with. I think we'll see Kalmak pushed up beside Tom Rogic, and I think we'll see Nir Bitton once again in the middle of the park. Bitton for me has been fantastic when needed this season as a midfielder, the position he should be in, and I trust him in games like this. It's only when it gets into the final three is where I start to worry, because I do not like the idea of David Turnbull as a striker. I actually prefer Rogic, to be honest, being up there if we have to. I'd prefer none of them, quite ideally. I'd prefer that the both of them are playing in the central midfield positions, their positions. But if I was to pick one of the two to play up there, it would be Rogic. But after the weekend, and we already seen Ange pick Turnbull to play in that area, I think he'll stick with that. I don't see why he would change his mind on it, especially when we won the game at the end of the day. I know Johnson came on and kind of took that role at the weekend, but, we've not got Johnson here now, so I think Turnbull will head out in that position once more, and I think Abada and Monty are the only two real viable options at the moment to start alongside him. Now, I know Lewis brought up the fact that we've got Owen Moffat travelling with the squad tomorrow, which I'm delighted to hear, and I'm hoping that he might come on and get a chance tomorrow night. But I think that he won't start the game. I don't know if he would rush him right into that sort of situation. Abada, quality player, fine with that. It'll be good to see Montgomery over on that left-hand side, and the left wing is actual position rather than a left back. It's just you don't have that instinct of a striker up front. You've got David Turnbull, who I think we've criticised a lot this season for maybe being a bit slowish, a little bit lazier. You don't have that same sort of mentality that you think you've got with Kyogo up there, and it takes a little bit of getting used to that. Hopefully we see Turnbull have a good game tomorrow night, and hopefully can provide goals, because we know he's a goal scorer. We know that he was our best player last season in the outfield. He scored the majority of our best goals. We know he can put the ball in the back of the net with ease. It's just, I feel like he's taking up a completely different role when he has to play up there, and it is one that you've got to just be hopeful with. It's not something that we're going to see an awful lot more in the future, especially when we add depth to the side. But I think that that's probably the closest thing to the starting 11 that we'll see tomorrow night for Celtic taking on Ross County. That's the last graphic I need to throw up screen. So I've talked about the game an awful lot. The one last thing I need to do is give my score prediction tomorrow night. I think that tomorrow Celtic will win the game. We should be winning the game. And it's one of those ones that I always say when McGinley's on here with me. Not every game's a guaranteed win, but if we don't win these sort of games, it is a bit of a kick in the stones, and there's a slight edge of embarrassment to it, because we're second of the table. Ross County, I think, are second bottom of the table. So Celtic, I think, should be winning the game. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Celtic win. If we keep another clean sheet and we manage to find goals without a striker in the squad once more, I will be very, very happy with that, and I think that Ange would be very, very happy with that. So there you go. That's my preview for the game. That's my predictions. So let's get on to questions. If you've got anything you want to get thrown in, we'll go for a kind of 5-10 minute question and answer session. If you want to pose anything to me, let me know your predictions as well in the chat. We've got Belly, for example, here saying 2-0 to Celtic as well, the same as my own prediction. But if you've got anything you want in, then feel free. I think I see a question here. My eyes, honest. So just to explain very quickly, you might see my eyes flying all over the place in this, and I'm struggling to read comments because right before we started, I looked directly into the ring light unexpectedly, like that kind of way, you look into the light, and it stains your eye sort of thing, like you've got to blink to check. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm struggling here to see as well. Daniel says, weird about the Greek boy as well. Why would we have signed him if he's injury prone? I think that we didn't expect the injuries to be this level this level of frequency, I should say. I don't think we expected him to be out as much as he has been. He did come in with that knock straight away, which kept him on the sidelines, which was a bit weird at the start, but I don't think we'd expect to be missing him as much as we have already this season. Mark says, I reckon we'll win 2-0. A 1-0 ugly win from Aaron. Thoughts on the season so far, says Connor Donnell. We're getting into that point, Connor, aren't we, where it's very thick and fast, it's very difficult, and it's kind of showing now where the quality of the team is, and I'm very happy with the quality of the team, and I'm happy with the team that we're seeing every week that are putting away opponents and keeping up at the top of the table. So yeah, I'm very, very happy. Scales, where the F is Scales, says Michael McDonald. Look, Scales will be on the bench, I'd imagine, maybe. I don't know. He wasn't on the bench at the weekend, was he? I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't mind seeing Scales come back in at some point soon if we need to. Someone's saying 2-1 to County. I hope not. I hope not. What about Juranovic playing forward instead of Monty, says Joe. I think that we've seen the capability of that. I think Juranovic was pushed a little bit forward at the weekend when Ralston came on the park. I wouldn't start the game like that, personally. I think I'd rather have Monty in there on the left wing where he deserves to be. I think that's his position where he should be, rather than shoehorning Juranovic in there. A big donation, by the way. Thank you very much to Plexiplox. A £5 or $5 donation, I should say. That's a very generous sum of money. Thank you very much. It goes a long way to helping me. And if you want to donate as well, you can through the super chat options. But he says, should we sign, well, it might be a she, I don't know. Should we sign Cameron Carter-Vickers, even if he costs £8 million? I think he is worth it. A quality centre-back will cost that or more. Cheers and hail hail. A very good question, and it's one that I think I want to cover when the discussion becomes a lot more sort of prominent in the media, and there seems to be more to it. I want to cover it, whether we should pay a lot of money for Carter-Vickers. I did see a report recently, and I think it was all over the mainstream, that the fee wasn't going to be as high. I think there was something for a £6 or £7 million. I don't know the technicalities behind it. I think he's quality. I would love to have him as a permanent signing at Celtic. We've obviously got to examine what he thinks and what he feels on his side. That's something you've got to consider as well. You don't want to just jump in and pay a large sum of money for a player when they don't want to be here or whatever. That's not the best idea. But if he's happy to stay, he wants to stay and be a permanent Celtic Football Club player. We've got to also look at the fact he's only got a year left on his contract at Spurs. Is it wise to spend the likes of £8 million on a player who's got a year left on their contract? I know that that's the kind of optional clause there that's part of the loan deal with Tottenham, but I don't see the Celtic board paying that for a player with 1 year on their deal. Even if it is an optional clause that we can use to beat other teams to the signing, I don't think we will. And I don't know if it's smart to. I like him, but I think we need to see a fee that's a little bit less, quite personally, unless he stands out even more for the next 6 months, and we'll re-examine at the end of the season. But it is only December, so we'll have to wait and see. Is Beaton a mainstay in the team now, based on recent performances? Says Joshy Boy. I don't mind the thought of him being in the team, but I'm not going to say he's a mainstay, because I still believe in January we need to go and sign a defensive midfielder. I think that's one of the areas we need to cover and we need to sign in. So yeah, do you think that Rogic and Turnbull will swap positions during the game? Says Connor. I wouldn't be surprised, and I actually agree with this. I think I would say yes to this. I think we will see that, and I don't think it will just be with them. I think it'll be with the wingers. I think we'll see the wingers taking turns at maybe moving into the central areas and playing as a sort of striker, the likes of Abada, maybe Montgomery. More Abada, I would say. I think we'll see a lot of rotation between the players who are capable of taking up an attacking role, just to see what works best, and maybe to try and, shake up the Ross County defence. Let's see, what else is? We'll try and fire through a couple more questions. What is the situation with Mikey Johnson? He could be an option through the middle. Johnson won't be available tomorrow, I don't think. I believe he's injured, so he could have been an option. I think he would have been the main option, in fact, if he was fit, but he's not fit. He won't be available tomorrow, as far as I'm aware. My thoughts on the J-League trio, says Martin Jock Johnson. Bring him in. Looking forward to it. Taylor or Scales? It's a big question, because we've seen very little of Scales, whereas we've seen a lot of Taylor, and Taylor has had so much more chances to kind of impress us, and maybe he's not quite delivered on that. I think it's difficult to assess the quality between the two, the difference in quality between the two. I would like to see Scales get more chances, though. I must admit, I really would like to see Scales get more chances, but if it's Taylor that's getting played, there potentially is a reason for that. I don't know. We'll go for one more question. DM McDonald, do you think we need a backup left winger in January, or do you think we should stick with Johnson? If it was up to me, I would be signing another left winger. If we have the chance, I would be signing another left winger. And that's how I'll end it. There we go. I've got work in 25 minutes. I better get myself going. But we have over 200 viewers on the stream. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everybody who contributed in the comments. Let me know if you prefer this sort of thing to the normal match previews. I like getting a wee bit of chat. I like opening up the discussion and doing something like we did for the last sort of 5-10 minutes there. So let me know if you enjoy it. We will be back tomorrow for the 3 things we've learned after the Ross County game. And hopefully it's a big win for Celtic once more in what this is a very, very important month for Celtic, as we keep saying. Right, hail, hail. See you all next time. Cheerio.